Hiya! Welcome to this, my 48th episode of VideoFuzzy. I'm your host, Tori Aman, and in this installment, titled Live in Front of a Studio Podcast, I highlight some character development in the third season premiere of Psych. In my Classic Collection, Tori Amos is Graham Norton, and I investigate the case of the wandering remote in an episode of The Shield. My current collection celebrates a couple of classic 1970s-era Norman Lear sitcoms. I discover nerd shows, Dead Sea Scrolls, and witches. Welcome to the show.
He doesn't have that on video, does he? We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy.
In What's Going On With Me, I was able to get some shrubbery cut back in line, and my lawn is far less out of hand than it's been up till now. By contrast, my flower garden is already an explosion of greenery, just crying out for some benign neglect this season, so who am I to argue? I'll see where it's going with this. Beyond that, holiday weekend this weekend, appreciating our servicemen and women, remembering those who did not make it back, and dreaming of a world we don't need to send them out in the first place. Tapping a few thoughts together on a rainy day and enjoying a nice medium roast. The City Brew always has such great music going here. This afternoon I've heard Belinda Carlisle's Circle in the Sand, one of my longtime favorites. Irene Cara's What a Feeling, the Gin Blossoms Until I Fall Away, very nice. I heard Lily Allen's update of Don't Get Me Wrong, really coming around on that song, especially since its appearance in the fourth season of Magicians. They had the Ramsey Lewis Trio's upbeat Wade in the Water, the vaguely Zeppelin-esque Tomorrow Never Knows by Living Colour, Nada Surf's complete reimagination of Depeche Mode's Enjoy the Silence, the Head and the Heart's cover of Don't Dream It's Over, such a great song. I'm sure I've got Crowded House's version of this somewhere, and the Melissa Etheridge cover of Tom Petty's Refugee. Oh, good energy. That is definitely in the buy pile.
Friday Night Feature.
On disc 676, I encountered the third season premiere of Psych, USA's comic crime serial featuring James Roday as Sean Spencer and Dule Hill as best friend and colleague Burton Guster. The episode, called Ghosts, opens as per usual, a scene from the mid-'80s featuring young Sean, often Liam James or Skylar Gisondo on the cold open flashbacks, this time played actually by Roday with Judd Nelson's hair from The Breakfast Club, why not, as a teenage Sean caught in a parked car making out with a girl, caught by Corbin Benson as his father, Henry, a beat officer who hauls Sean in his ridiculous hair. You mispronounced awesome, I've heard it both ways, into the station, and we catch a glimpse of Timothy Robinson in uniform as Officer Lassiter, being incompetent in the background. Flash to present day, and Sean is ticked off that his dad is mooning about, hogging time with his mom, being all attentive, maybe he suspects, trying to apologize for leaving her. Oh, this is a rare character development episode for this show, guest starring Cybil Shepherd as Sean's mother. This casting struck me as perfect, by the way. I think Roday took so much inspiration from Bruce Willis's David Addison for Moonlighting in the creation of this character, which melds perfectly with the show's 80s references, and Shepherd, who starred opposite Willis as Maddie Hayes, steps into the role as his mother so naturally. I think Sean Spencer could literally not be happier to discover that he was the extra-canonical son of David Addison and Maddie Hayes. All the silver-tongued, quick-witted, snappy dialogue, seat-of-his-pants fly-by-night investigations that solved the mystery and saved the day based on little more than sharp-eyed hyper-observation and nimble mental connections. Not to mention the near-perfectly maintained, emotionally balanced multi-season will they or won't they sexual tension between him and natural love interest in the piece, Officer Julian O'Hara, played by Maggie Lawson. Anyway, Cybil, as police consultant Maddie Spencer, is in town for a use-of-force inquiry on Amundsen's Detective Lassiter, and Sean's annoyed that every time he's about to get some alone time with his mom, his dad is there. He's drawn away from this family drama with the realization that Gus is leaving Psych. What? Yeah, a police consult puts a 3-column picture on the front page above the fold of Sean and Gus helping to solve a murder for their Psych agency. Not the way newspapers work, but never mind. And Todd Stashwick as Gus's humorless supervisor, Frank Jim Ogletree, instead of reveling in the free positive publicity, instead of reflecting on how his lack of awareness of Gus's off-site consulting activities for the past 2 years suggests it hasn't ever been an issue, instead determines that Gus is leaving early and cutting quarters and essentially moonlighting as a detective, and he's got to choose between the two. Gus sends Sean a text that says, "I quit," and Sean turns up at Gus's work and eats one of his coworkers' lunch from the break room fridge and makes a scene, which, shockingly, does nothing to change Frank Jim's opinion. But Chris McDonald, as Ogletree's boss Jim Haversham, calls Sean and Gus into his office because Haversham's wife and help have been reacting to strange supernatural emanations in his new home. Mrs. Haversham doesn't even want to be there until he can get them under control, and he saw the report in the paper and hoped Sean could help. Sean assures him this is what they do. Gus meets Sean at Haversham's house, where he discovers Sean has been making himself right at home, lounging in Haversham's deliciously silky robe, sipping his very imported cocoa, stripping down and doing his laundry there, hence the robe, and Gus is freaking out, but Haversham gives them the tour, and Sean's peek at his photo albums tell him what he needs to know about his fidelity and business practices, enough to leverage Gus's job security well into the foreseeable. Even so, he continues the investigation, interviewing Belinda Johel as Haversham's help, the superstitious Hedwish, who has seen a mysterious ghostly lantern lady on moonlit evenings. And then there's the creepy activity of Haversham's phone, a sibilant whispering voice, and Haversham's caller ID asserts the call is coming from himself. So mysterious. Gus's investigation takes him to Haversham's attic, where he finds Sean on a phone company monitor handset, which he doesn't hang up fast enough. Haversham hears Sean and Gus talking on the extension, and now Haversham is super suspicious and wants to fire both of them, preferably into space. Some fast talking from Sean, counter-threatening release of Haversham's business practices of repackaging free pharmaceutical samples for sale, and oh yeah, the affair he's having with a member of his sales staff. Sean couldn't help but notice the same china pattern from the hot cocoa he snarfed at Haversham's home, and Gus's adulterous co-worker Bianca's takeaway leftovers he'd nabbed at the office. Suddenly, Haversham is offering Gus free and clear operation of his after-hours police consult, and oh yeah, a raise. In your face, Ogletree. That little issue resolved. Back to that character development I'd mentioned up there regarding Sean and his parents. Sean resented his dad's intrusion into what he saw as his mom time, since, in his understanding, Henry had left Maddie and he was ticked off. Maddie sat him down and assured him this was not the case. She'd left them. As Sean is spun, trying to understand how his mother could possibly have left him, Maddie explains it broke her heart, but she could not be in that marriage anymore and had to leave. For as observant as Sean has written, this seems like a particularly enormous blind spot, but you know what? That's exactly the kind we have about family. My heart broke a little with Sean's disillusioned confrontation of that angry teen he became in the absence of his mother from his life, but that's basically what it does. His eyes opened. This episode cleared some emotional rubble to lay in the foundation for a fresh start and a renewed relationship with his father, not to mention a reassessment of his phobia for relationships. If she did nothing else, well, she did actually. Her consult with Lassiter revealed a lot of messed up craziness in that head of his. Maddie Spencer, Maddie Hayes, always so good to see Cybil Shepherd wherever she turns up. And, as promised back in episode 24, with a Psych episode as my actual Friday night feature, this seems as good an opportunity as any I'll have to celebrate Gus's delightful array of nicknames. I love Psych. One sustained comic beat in this series is Sean's introduction of Gus as whatever occurs to him. In Ghosts, for instance, it was, "Hi, I'm Sean Spencer, and this is my colleague, Lemongrass Guckalope." So, with credit to the fan-powered Psych Wiki, here is Sean Spencer with Burton Guster, also known as Peter Panic, Felicia Pansybottom, Gus Sillypants Jackson, Francois Magic Head, Chocolate Columbo, Dr. Ernest Lambert Watkins, Bud from The Cosby Show, DeAndre, Gus T.T. Showbiz, the extra T is for extra talent, Ovaltine Jenkins, Burton Oil Can Guster, The G, Big Head Burton, Tuberculosis Shillington, Cowboy Lindo, Shmooly Cohen, Galileo Humpkins, Scooney U-Turn Singleton, Nick Nack, Lavender Gooms, Tan of Black and Tan in the Psych episode A Crime of Fashion. He was Bruton, Gasty, Gaster, Patty Simcox, Die Harder, Squirts McIntosh, Black Star, Hope Skillet. He was Methuselah Honeysuckle, that was from Sean's dad, Henry, Chesterfield Macmillan and wife, Long Branch Pennywhistle, Scrooge Jones, Hummingbird Saltamachia, Step Anthony Wally-Ali, who's later cat stuck in a tree, Tay Diggs, Daquan Smallpox Randolph, Hollaback Atcha, Slicks, Sterling Cooper, Trapezius Milkington, Jazz Hands, Jod Slade, Ron Davis, Rich Fingerland, a.k.a. Bob Adams. He has been Black Magic, Harry Monroe, Cheswick, Donut Hellstein, Guy Buttersnaps, Clementine Woolly Socks, Jonathan Jacob Jingly Smith, San Antonio Holmes, Dion Richmond, Gerton Buster, Chaz Bono, MC Clap Your Hands, Road Rash, Mellow Rush, Miss Whittlebury, Crankshaft, G-Force, Sure Blacklock, Imhotep or He Cometh in Peace, Control-Alt-Delete, Yasmin Bleeth, Lodge Blackman, Lodge Blackman, Mission Figs, Radio Star, Gus J. Gupta, Original G Street, aka The Crowd Pleaser, Benedict Arnold Jackson, ran into that one on Family Guy as well, Watson Williams, Ingle Woods, Brutal Hustler, Valacio del Toro, that one is nasty, Lawrence Tate, Shadynasty, Candyman, Gurn Blanston, Immaculate Conception, Pootie Tang, Domo Arigato, Jonas Gustavson, Blue Ivy Carter, Bill of Rights, VJ Armitage, Django Unchained, Daryl Flapjack Palmdale, Burton Trout, and hi, I'm Sean Spencer, and this is Ernesto Agapito Garcia Cognac de Abelar. Gesundheit. Cross Connection. Todd Stashwick is another golden thread running through my media collection. I encountered him as Gus's supervisor in Psych, where Dooley Hill's gig with Bradley Whitford in The West Wing already put the show just one step removed from Studio 60. In fact, Stashwick appeared on that show directly. Stashwick debuted in AMC's nostalgic little radio dramedy, Remember WENN. It hasn't shown up yet, but it's totally in my collection somewhere. He was in both Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. He was in Will and Grace, Close to Home. He was in Monk and Boston Legal. He was in Star Trek Enterprise and the Drew Carey Show. I'm not sure I ever recorded that, but I'm sure I recorded some of his Whose Line Is It Anyway improv. He was in The Riches, he was in The Middleman, the one I cataloged this very weekend, in fact, the Flying Fish Zombification. Oh, that's pretty much par for the course for episode titles for that show. He was in Life, he was in Supernatural, he was in Terminator with the Sarah Connor Chronicles, he was in Saving Grace, Heroes and the Good Guys with Colin Hanks, and again with Bradley Whitford. He was in Stuff My Dad Says, he was in The Glades, Men of a Certain Age, Burn Notice, Leverage, Justified. He was in Franklin and Bash, Grey's Anatomy, Warehouse 13, and Criminal Minds. Well done, man. As I'm going through this, I'm certain I will see you again and again and again. This Psych episode also featured the debut of Elysia Rotaru as the Lantern Lady. She doesn't have the presence in my collection others do, but she was so much fun in this role, and she pops up again in episodes of Eureka, Sanctuary, Supernatural, and oh hey, Fringe. That's going to be fun. I think I got most of that Fox series in here somewhere, but I think it conflicted with something or other for at least one season. I'll need to track down once I know which one I'm missing for sure. And in other cross-connections, I encountered Percy Daggs from Veronica Mars in an episode of In Plain Sight. I ran across the late Corey Monteith from Glee in the New Year's Day zombie episode of NBC's Fear Itself. Second season premiere of Saving Grace featured Renee Auberjonois, Stephen Culp, Dean Norris, Jessica Walter, and Tom Irwin, one of the first cross-connections I ever started tracking since I first saw him as the dad in my so-called life. Not to mention regular cast member Kenny Johnson, Lemansky from The Shield. That'll come up here more in a bit. Auberjonois took on the role of Grace's childhood molester, a very complicated role for him, and a very complicated role to see him in.
Diving into the Classic Collection.
Going through my VHS-to-DVD collection, on disc 674 I found a 2007 episode of The Graham Norton Show featuring singer Tori Amos in such an 80s ad for Just Right Cornflakes, mugging it up so cheesily in a jib-shot piano duet with someone or other whose name I can't find anywhere. I can include an image in my show notes, but it does not raise to the level of crowdsourcing. The commercial had appeared 10 years before the release of her song Cornflake Girl on her Under the Pink LP. She kind of was a Cornflake Girl, though in the context of the meaning behind the song I gathered while trying to learn more about it, I learned that at its most basic level, Cornflake Girl refers to women who betray each other's trust, as opposed to the Raisin Girls to whom she claims more allegiance. It's interesting that the term showed up in the second season of Legion when Aubrey Plaza as Lenny rejoined her drug addict friends. She described herself as the Cornflake Girl, who she both was and wasn't in the context of that show. I've been a Tori fan for years, and my untutored interpretation of the lyric came from the reality of Raisin Bran, where you have a bunch of undifferentiated cornflakes and they're boring, and the Raisin Girls are sweet and far more interesting. You spin them out to a million minds, songs and meanings behind them for sure take on lives of their own. Cooler than Graham Norton tracking down that cheesy ad from the 80s, however, was a live performance of Tori Amos's Bouncing Off Clouds single from her 2007 American Doll Posse release. Fantastic showmanship, ethereal, otherworldly vocals soaring above a commanding, virtuoso multi-keyboard presentation. Tori Amos is a shining light wherever she appears, and I was so happy to encounter her here. In other discoveries, so there I was, disc 678, cataloging a fourth season episode of The Shield. The episode was called Hurt, where Benito Martinez as David Acevedo was pressuring Glenn Close as Monica Rowlands to pull Michael Chiklis' Vic Mackey off a lucrative seizures operation, right when Michael Jason, Catherine Dent as Julian and Danny are investigating an open container as part of a routine traffic stop, when the scene shifts abruptly to a very cheesy promotions office. Lots of reds and shiny and neon. Hawaiian shirt guy picks up the phone and it's a creepy, scruffy kidnapper saying he's got his diva, Iris, and he'll turn her over for $1 million. Turns out they've actually kidnapped her bodyguard, Valerie Irons, disguised as Iris, and the promotions guy is cool with that. He slams the phone down and orders his flunky to arrange a press conference. The scene shifts abruptly back to The Shield, where David Rees-Snell as Ronnie is pulling Mackie and Lemansky into the clubhouse to show them surveillance from Shane's car. But what the hell was that? Well, the intervening clip was about 1 minute and 15 seconds long. There was no network watermark. There's a sign on the wall, Elion Entertainment, and a couple identifiable names, Iris and Valerie Irons. I typed a scrap of dialogue into the Guadalupe. They've kidnapped Valerie Irons, but nothing definitive came up. Although I did see an alternate spelling of Valerie, spelled like gallery but with a V, and I typed that in. I got Pamela Anderson in the 1998 production V.I.P., which was released as syndicated, so aired as other. Even the New York Times review from 2000 refuses to nail it down to any specific network, but it appears in my collection as a minute or so of random channel surfing. My eyes rolled hard. V.I.P., really? Even so, it's in my collection, so I want to find out what it is for sure. Tracking down the episode posed something of a challenge, however. Centered as it was around a bodyguard agency, Valerie Irons' Protection, the V.I.P. from the title, kidnapping was a common enough theme in the 4 seasons of the production, and it would appear no one posted a searchable script of the episode anywhere online. So I dug in a little harder. The promotions guy on the phone mentions Iris, and I added that to my search. V.I.P. Iris. This gave me absolutely nothing, so I narrowed the search universe to Pamela Anderson V.I.P. Iris. Bingo. A second season episode, Ransom of Red Val, popped up. I pulled up the cast list. There was an Iris, there was an Elliot, the name of the promotions guy. Elliot was played by Jay Underwood, and he's got a recent photo posted to IMDb, but the resemblance is inconclusive. 20 years will do that to a person. But his assistant, or rather the guy I assumed played his assistant, Dean Fortunato, IMDb didn't have any kind of photo for him, but Google image search did. Again, I couldn't be 100%, but there was a pic that came up that really looked like the guy on my screen, appearing in a show called Freddy's Nightmares. I double-checked IMDb, and voila, he's got an acting credit in Freddy's Nightmares from 1990, and this one particular episode of V.I.P. Providence tracked plenty well enough for my satisfaction. Goal achieved. Now, why the hell do I have 1 minute and 15 seconds of V.I.P., not even a scrap of Pamela Anderson in it at least, interrupting a riveting episode of The Shield? I could not tell you. I'm glad I didn't get any more of it, however. That scene they cut back to, Mackie watching the footage of Shane's betrayal of him to Anthony Anderson as Antoine Mitchell. Oh wow, I never realized that was him. That was some outstanding writing and acting. Oh, and immediately following, I got a rare picture of Glenn Close standing in front of my video collection from 2008. I'm opposed to my show notes. Kidding, but damn, that is a whole lot of videotape. Otherwise, in contrast to what I was finding last time, I found some absolutely fantastic episodes of Monty Python's Flying Circus, including one of my all-time favorite sketches, a surrealistic assortment of random lines set in the foyer of a cannibalistic restaurant, featuring John Cleese as a long-suffering husband, Eric Idle as his pointlessly chatty and unattractive wife, interrupted halfway through by some sort of Greek prologue who pronounces, "Imagine not that these four walls contain the mighty owl of Thebes, for, gentles all, beauty sits most closely to them it can construe." Michael Palin shoos him off. "No, it doesn't." Oh, sorry. This is the Python I fell in love with, the comedy arising from misdirection and the unexpected, Eric Idle then reappearing later as a doctor following a sort of me Tarzan, you Jane style exchange. To wit, "Mr. Burtonshaw."
Me, Doctor?
"No, me doctor, you Mr. Burtonshaw."
My wife, Doctor?
"No, your wife, patient, me doctor." "Come this way, please."
Me, sister?
"No, she's sister, me doctor, you Mr. Burtonshaw." "Dr. Walters." "Me nurse, you Mr. Burtonshaw, she's sister, you doctor." "No, doctor." "No, doctor, call ambulance, keep warm." "Drink, doctor." "Drink, doctor, eat sister, cook Mr. Burtonshaw, nurse me." "You doctor." "Me doctor, you Mr. Burtonshaw, she nurse."
But my wife, nurse.
"Your wife not nurse, she nurse, your wife patient, me patient, she nurse, your wife, me doctor, you tree, you trect, you trillo, you tant, euphemism, me doctor." Albatross! Exactly my style of humor. Loved encountering these first season episodes in this run. Closing out this section, I encountered the 7th season premiere of Monk, dedicated to the memory of Stanley Camel, who, since the pilot episode, had portrayed the endlessly patient psychiatrist Dr. Kroger to title character Adrian Monk, played by Tony Shalhoub. Hector Elizondo joined the cast in this one as Dr. Nevin Bell. The appearance by Brad Garrett as a profoundly disruptive contractor contributed to a plotline that, over the course of the episode, reflected Monk's absolute devastation in the wake of his loss. Garrett, as Honest Jake Phillips, signs on to help Monk with a minor repair to his new home, which devolves into chaos as Phillips and his team hack the main floor apart in search of the loot from the bank heist that went missing after the former owner's Reno project. The closing scenes in this high-tension season opener found Monk and Trailer Howard's longtime assistant Natalie Teagan chained to a bathtub they'd dragged into the living room through a nightmare of destruction. The episode ended with Monk returned to the familiar peace and comfort of his home, closing on a photo of Dr. Kroger. Beautiful tribute. Current collection. When I was growing up, some of the first comedy I encountered, apart from Laugh-In and the Carol Burnett Show, came to my home out of 704 Hauser Street in the borough of Queens, New York. Carol O'Connor, Gene Stapleton, Sally Struthers, and Rob Reiner comprised the core cast of Norman Lear's social treatise, All in the Family. The show represented a lot of firsts and explored the broadest range of societal pressures, forces, and movements, but as show creator Lear pointed out, the genius of the show was the issues it touched on and the conversations it raised could legitimately be taking place in any home in any neighborhood. Part of the beauty at the time was the inevitability of the pressure cooker this family was in. Their entire lives were contained on the soundstage. Little escaped notice or comment from head of household Archie Bunker, definitely came at everything with a decided point of view, formed instant opinions about other people based on prejudice that was slow in transformation. Just as forthright from the strident left was firebrand Mike Stivic, Archie's live-in son-in-law, married to little Gail Gloria, providing a reliably feminist perspective not always appreciated by housewife and mother Edith, whose usual response was to just make sure everyone's immediate needs were being met while providing a social buffer to diffuse tension however she could. Last week, completely by chance, I learned ABC would be airing a classic episode from the series on something called Live in Front of a Studio Audience. Woody Harrelson and Marissa Tomei took on the roles of Archie and Edith, while Ike Barinholtz and Ellie Kemper presented Mike and Gloria. The episode they presented live to air before a studio audience, hosted by Lear and talk show host Jimmy Kimmel, was a 4th season production from the original series called Henry's Farewell, in which Archie, with some assistance from Sean Hayes as Frank Lorenzo and Wanda Sykes as Wheezy, ends up hosting a farewell party for Henry, brother of Archie's neighbor George Jefferson, the episode, in fact, that introduced Sherman Hemsley in that iconic role. Anthony Anderson presented Henry, while Jovan Adepo played Lionel. Jamie Foxx presented George Jefferson in the live version. He gave a compelling tribute to Helmsley's inaugural appearance, fubbing his toast to Henry somewhat and smashing the fourth wall, but recovering and ultimately earning those heartstrings he played. That show, complete with the live performance of the classic theme song Those Were the Days by Harrelson and Tomei, was followed by a live performance by Jennifer Hudson of Movin' On Up and the pilot episode of The Jeffersons, titled A Friend in Need. Sykes and Fox stepped through and reprised their roles as Wheezy and George in that deluxe apartment in the sky, introducing that dramatis personae, Will Ferrell and Kerry Washington as Tom and Helen Willis, Stephen Tobolowsky as Harry Bentley, who got a wow live backwalk from Fox on set. Adepo reappeared as Lionel, emerging from his bedroom with Amber Stevens West as his girlfriend, Jenny, Tom and Helen's daughter. Jacquet Harry appeared to take on the role as Wheezy's friend Diane. Jacquet was reunited in this effort with 227 co-star Marla Gibbs, reprising her role as Florence, the Jeffersons' wacky maid. That show also took me back. I loved both shows growing up. Both influenced my sense of humor. Watching them live, it was kind of incredible how edgy they were for the time. The unreconstructed thoughts and opinions of the people of that time. Oh, wait. Well, the major change from that era to this was ABC's decision to bleep the N-word. Following the live show, Nightline aired clips from the original so viewers could compare what they'd just watched, and darned if they weren't just about line for line. They bleeped George's use of that word in both the live show and the clip they aired, which I felt was respectful. Lear was plenty edgy enough for his day, hell, just pulling up mid-noughties episodes of The Shield to catalog them for this. The racial slurs are troubling. For sure, no one has any doubt what's being said there. We don't need to hear it, thanks. Mainly, I was just happy to see these shows again. Now, just from my memory of the show, it does not hold up. Archie Bunker's bigotry and sexism is nothing I think needs to be airing on the regular just now, even were it balanced by Meathead and Gloria's strident liberalism or moderated by Edith's compassion. But as a time capsule, as a spark, as a point of examination of where we were and where we are, I thought airing the episodes, followed by the Nightline discussion, it wasn't going to change the world, but it was a good enough benchmark to measure what's changed over the past 50 years and what, frankly, hasn't. Good work, everyone. Very quickly, A Discovery of Witches is a fantastic production. It reads a bit facile occasionally, but knows where the deep end is. For instance, last week we got a glimpse, well, in fact, a full holodeck experience courtesy of the family home of Diana's parents and what pressures they were under in giving her up to be raised by her aunties. But then this neophyte with no training, she accidentally sets some produce on fire instead of a candle, but on no better strength than irritation actually teleports to an outbuilding. To be clear, that's a different building located elsewhere on the property. Praise be, her vampire lover Matthew could thank goodness sniff her out and locate her, but then, later, he apparently cannot sniff out another vampire, as it happens when actually in his eye line a few mere yards away, threatening to end her life. Not sure how the rules work with magic and witches and vampires and flight and super speed in this one, but they would not appear to be internally consistent. A pity. Still, I'm enjoying the world they built, and we'll see where they're going with this. Also, Fosse Verdon on FX and Happy on Sci-Fi, very different shows, but both turned in powerful episodes in the wind-up to their season finales this week. I'm especially looking forward to the towering battle royale between Orcus, the god of death, Sunny Shine, Nick Sachs, and Happy, revealed this past week as the god of love. It should be amazing. Closing out this section, I haven't cataloged it yet, but this past week's season finale of Brockmire was outstanding. It's opening day in Tampa, and the crazies are out in full force. Hank Azaria as Jim Brockmire is dealing with fans of legendary baseball commentator, now disgraced, openly racist Art Newley, put out to pasture by Major League Baseball, but, like our hero, finding his voice in social media. Newley's disciples, like half a dozen incel idiots, confront Brockmire on his way into announcing the game, smear his trademark plaid jacket with dog mess, which it gets lost instantly. He hands it off for cleaning. So now, along with the yips he's been dealing with maintaining the count this season, he doesn't have his lucky jacket. His sister shows up to yell at him. His girlfriend just broke up with him, while Jules, the love of his life, is all over Instagram marrying a team owner or something. And when he calls upon the god of baseball for guidance, the only higher power he'll acknowledge, he finds his AA sponsor actually drinking in the bar across the street. Our newly fanboy cyberbullies are demanding him and Gabby, Tawny Newsome as Gabby Taylor, his person of color, lesbian of color co-announcer, be fired. They're calling in SWAT teams, bomb threats, and shutting down stadiums, and all he's got by way of response is corporate wants them to release this weak sauce statement saying, "Hey, be nice." Well, here's the lines as they were delivered. Welcome here today to Tampa, Florida's most Floridian city, where Oakland opens up the 2019 season. I'm Jim Brockmeyer with my partner Gabby Taylor on this uniquely somber opening day. As many of you know, 5 games were canceled today, and the MLB has asked us to read the following statement. Major League Baseball condemns the misuse of law enforcement by a misguided group today. We hope and pray that in these divided times, good people on all sides can come together. Wow, baseball's really taking a brave stance against improper emergency service calls, aren't they? Yeah, that's certainly a whole lot of words kind of strung together in a row, Jim. It certainly is. But as the focus of today's hateful fear-mongering, Gabby and I would like to say just a few more words. Gabby? Thanks, Jim. You know, I'm about to bring a child into a world where men like Art Newley seem to have their voice and power just amplified by the minute. He and his followers don't want me in baseball or America, but people like me have always been in this game and this country. I'm going to raise this baby to be a baseball fan because this is my game. You're damn right it is. You know, folks, my mom always said nothing in this life matters, and on days like this, when it seems like stupidity and ignorance are the only things being rewarded, it's easy to feel that she is exactly right. But I believe that we create our own meaning in this world. Out there on that diamond, that is a world that has meaning. Fairness, patience, community, the knowledge that we're part of a team even when we're by ourselves. These are the core tenets of baseball. They're the ones I fight for inside and outside of this game. Folks, baseball endures. It's a relic of a bygone era that, well, wasn't even a particularly good one. But its continued existence is a lesson to us all that we too can make it out of these dark times. Well said, Jim. Stay tuned for the first pitch when we return. Brilliant show. Cannot return fast enough. And now, Nerd Show! I've also encountered a few excellent nerd shows over the past couple of months, and although it's been a while, I remember what I wanted to say about a piece I encountered on the History Channel called The Dead Sea Scrolls. It tracked some of the fragments discovered at Nag Hammadi as they're being recovered, sifted, and analyzed, and a pattern was definitely emerging. The production team wanted the recently discovered fragments of these biblical-era texts to confirm past teachings or radically diverge from them. With every commercial break, the breathless question, would these ancient texts reveal new teachings from Christ's most loyal followers or history's greatest heretics? They'd sell us soap and beer in a car, and by the time they came back, it seemed like they'd completely forgotten the question. Just more lab texts and light boards photographing fragments, pointing at them and peering at them for the kinds of truths you might look for in testimony recovered from a cross-cut shredder. Which might indeed emerge one day, but at this stage of the recovery are essentially the jigsaw puzzle being reconstructed face down. I'd laugh if these researchers put it all together and in the end said, well, it's really illegible. It's like most of this doesn't seem to be in English at all. Not an especially definitive production. By contrast, this past week I ran into a beautifully crafted history, a PBS series called Breakthrough, The Ideas That Changed the World. In the 6th installment, titled Smartphones, Sir Patrick Stewart's engaging narration traced advances in Roman military intel through to the innovation of Morse code, Alexander Graham Bell and the transmission of human speech, Guglielmo Marconi's radio transmissions, the revelation of the integrated circuit through to the miracle of human connection a good chunk of us carry around with us daily in our pockets. I discovered this series quite by chance. Truthfully, it does a lot of the same things that irritate me when I encounter them elsewhere as time fillers, but in a show as well crafted as this one, I don't mind so much, which is to embellish upon the dry historical record with unsourced, often mawkish recreations. And there was definitely some intrusive sensationalism, most regrettably scenes of Samuel Morse encountering the ghost of his late wife as he was depicted frantically seeking solutions to expand the potential for rapid communication. Seriously. Ew. But generally the piece earned its emotional notes. That was the realm it explored, the human dimension beyond these innovations, which leads me to my main criticism. The series is only 6 hours. I've only seen the 1 hour they did on smartphones. I'll happily watch the others if they re-air them, and can't speak at all to what they came up with on telescopes, airplanes, robots, cars, and rockets. I understand when you're compressing millennia of human history into 1 hour presentations, they're necessarily going to be compressed, absolutely. But the focus was so unrelentingly Western. Military conquests, roads, electricity, telegraphs, telephones, radio, computers, then, ta-da, smartphones. What's to add? Well, how would I even know? You're attributing these advances to a broad human need for communication and connection. Surely humans in Africa and Asia were addressing these same needs somehow. Why so Eurocentric? Just maybe do 90 minutes, or switch out a few Sam and Lucretia walking in the garden scenes for, say, Chinese or Mesoamerican approaches to the problem. That said, like I said, if I run into any repeats on these breakthrough episodes, I'm definitely checking them out. Engaging, accessible, beautifully produced, highly recommended. I also ran into some really cool How the Universe Works pieces on Jupiter and Venus, and some excellent discussion on space-time, dark matter, and dark energy in such entries as Did a Black Hole Build the Milky Way and Battle of the Dark Universe. Along with all that, physicist Brian Greene has a presentation this week on PBS. I'm definitely looking forward to tuning in. Upcoming shows. So looking forward to seeing that Brian Greene Einstein special I mentioned up there. We've got the Archer 1999 series opening this week as well, and a few other summer cable series I'm looking forward to. Along with that, can't wait to watch the Elton John biopic Rocket Man at theaters this weekend, and Dark Phoenix coming up after that. So exciting. Also, I'll be observing the second anniversary of VideoFuzzy coming up in a few weeks here. I'd love to include any listener feedback you'd care to share, contact information, well, right here, in fact. Thank you for checking out my video cataloging project. You can check out my catalog listing along with audio links at VideoFuzzy.blogspot.com and past episodes at Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Feedback is always appreciated. You can contact me through my blog or podcast sites via email or through my VideoFuzzy page on Facebook, or you can follow me at TJVideoFuzzy on Twitter. For VideoFuzzy, I'm Terry J. Aman. Happy viewing.
It might be amazing, it might just be scuzzy. We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy. Video outtakes.
Oh, hey, and just a sneak peek for next time, my new microphone just arrived in the mail, and I just plugged it in, and this is what it sounds like. I will get a little more used to it for episode 49 and all subsequent out. Hopefully we can get this sounding pretty good. Enjoy.